Analogies are dangerous things, of course, but one of the things that struck me reading your piece and looking at the situation in general is, as you write, there is a bipartisan establishment dream, which in this case involves extending NATO to Russia's borders. And to me, it seems that the bipartisan nature of the war fever may be too strong a term, but the very militant and black and white attitude towards what's going on, especially towards Russia, seems very reminiscent of the run-up to the Iraq War. Is that comparison out of line, you think?
I think it's a very interesting one, but again, as Stephen Cohen and I wrote, what's striking, and you remember this, Richard, is how there was a debate. There was a debate on the eve of the war in Iraq, and there was more recently a debate in the run-up to the possible war against Syria. In this case, it seems as if there's been one hand clapping. As you put it, there's bipartisan political collaboration, and the media, with some exceptions, has bought into this black hat, white hat narrative that has systematically distorted the depiction of Ukraine reaching the American people. So one needs to kind of unpack so much, going back 23 years to NATO expansion, but going back to November, when, on the table in November was a tripartite offer that Ukraine could join the EU and also remain part of the Russian customs union. When Ukraine stepped back from the EU offer, which, by the way, as you may know, had in sort of small type in the EU offer a military component, which looked to be, from the Russian perspective, a kind of ramp toward NATO membership. So at that moment, why it became an existential civilizational crisis that Ukraine couldn't remain both part of East and West is still a mystery in certain ways, though it does seem that you had neocon hangovers and holdovers in the State Department, in intelligence, and those who have been committed, Richard, over these last 2 decades to expanding NATO. And why that is both a political, ideological, militaristic, economic drive, and it isn't doing much good for the good people of Ukraine who get lost in some of this. The people who protested in Kiev in the square, so much of their protest was aimed at the corruption of an oligarchical fiefdom leadership. Who may well win May 25th? The chocolate oligarch. Who's running various regions of Ukraine as we speak? Oligarchs. And so in that, you see the kind of how Ukraine has become a pawn. Now, what's interesting is Europe is now leading the way for a variety of reasons, and I don't just buy that it's gas. I think that Europe is on the borders. It understands how dangerous disintegration of Ukraine could be. It understands that diplomacy and negotiations may be the sole way to prevent the disintegration of Ukraine, but that the EU, for a while, was sort of out of the picture as it became a virtual proxy Cold War between Russia and the United States. So I think what's key now is to de-escalate, and if it continues in this fashion in the United States, it will be very tough, though I do think you're right that both the media and political class have egged on the administration in this rash and destructive foreign policy, but that the administration itself and certainly key players in it have gone along.